Thank you, Program Director. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, Chairperson and members of the Commission, Minister Kwele, Deputy Minister Nel, Your Excellencies, leaders of political parties, heads of constitutional institutions, members of the judiciary, Judge Vepenar from the Electoral Court, Your Excellencies, High Commissioners, Ambassadors, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of civil society and faith-based organizations, business and labor organizations, members of the media, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. We are a third of the way into the election timetable, and just 49 days remain before South Africa votes in our country's 6th national and provincial election. Already, many of the key milestones to these elections have passed and have been realized. The voters' roll has been certified and published. It contains 26,700,000 voters, of whom 55% are women and 45% are men. The voters' roll represents 74.6% of the total voting age population. And since the first common national voters' roll was first compiled in 1999, the roll has grown by 47%. And inspired by the EXE campaign, young voters under the age of 29 represent 21% of the voters' roll. 22,924 voting stations will host voting and counting on the 8th of May, and those have been secured and their details published, along with the routes and stopping times for our 32 mobile voting stations. Applications by voters to vote abroad have been finalized, and we will see 29,334 voters permitted to cast their ballots on the 27th of April 2019 at South Africa's 121 foreign missions around the world. This is a 10% increase over the 26,000 who were permitted to vote abroad in 2014. Foreign missions with the highest number of voters intending to vote outside of the Republic are the following: London, 9,000 voters; Dubai, 1,500; The Hague, Netherlands, 1,300; Canberra, Australia, 1,195; and Abu Dhabi, 1,000. The deadline for the submission of party candidate list and payment of election deposits has come and gone, resulting in a record 48 parties which will contest the national elections. This is 19 parties more than contested the national elections in 2014. A record number of political parties will also contest provincial elections in all provinces, with the largest number of parties contesting in Gauteng at 36 parties, and the smallest number in the Northern Cape at 21 parties. Overall, there are 76 unique parties which will be taking part in the elections on the 8th of May. Later this morning, we will conduct a draw to determine the sequential configuration of parties on the national and provincial ballot papers. We are also currently awaiting the correction of non-compliance in relation to candidates who have not fully complied with the nomination requirements. Political parties have until the 25th March to ensure that such non-compliance is rectified. This rectification will pave the way for us to publish the list of candidates on the 29th of March. Ladies and gentlemen, that only leaves us one remaining issue in terms of the processes that underpin the electoral timetable, namely applications for special votes by the physically infirm, disabled and pregnant persons, as well as those South Africans who are unable to cast their ballots on voting day. This will include election officials, security personnel, party agents and candidates, the media, and others likely to be in some sort of service on election day. These voters have from the 4th to the 18th of April to apply for special votes. Applications for special votes can be lodged with the Commission via physical delivery at the local offices, on the website, as well as by SMS. However, the SMS may only be used in respect of applications for special votes at voting stations. Special votes will be cast at places of confinement and at the voting stations on the 6th and 7th of May. Compatriots, our logistical preparations for the elections are equally well advanced and on track. Following today's ballot paper draw, we will be ready to commence the ballot production process. In tandem with the number of registered voters and applying universally accepted buffer threshold, we will be printing over 50 million ballot papers using over 40 tons of paper. The ballot production process will take about 14 days to complete. The significant increase in the number of contesting parties, both at the national and in the provincial ballot, has considerable logistical and cost implication for this year's elections. Longer ballot papers and the need for additional ballot boxes have placed a perverse cost burden on the Electoral Commission. Nonetheless, most of our bulk logistical items are already distributed to provincial warehouses where they await dispatch to their final voting stations destination on the eve of special votes. Among the materials already delivered to warehouses, there are the following: over 220,000 ballot boxes, 132,000 voting compartments, 29,000 voting station arrow signs, and 56,000 stationery packs. Work has already begun on building the national and provincial result centers where we will collate and finalize the results. As usual, the National Results Center will be based in Tshwane Event Center at the showgrounds, and we look forward to hosting all of you there in the final 7 days towards the election. Our ICT systems are also in the final stage of upgrade for the elections. We have completed the enhancements to the result system, and the audit of this system by an independent external auditors is almost complete. Our online candidate nomination system has also been upgraded and performed admirably in handling the record number of candidates over the last few weeks. We have also completed the upgrading of internet bandwidth to all our local offices to ensure expeditious transaction on the wide area network of the Commission. We are further onboarding new hardware, including new servers and personal computers, to give us the speed and the power to manage the elections more efficiently. We are also progressing well with the recruitment and training of approximately 220,000 election officials who will conduct voting and counting on election day. The list of presiding officers and deputy presiding officers will soon be submitted to political parties via municipal party liaison committees for any objections based on non-conformance with the agreed recruitment and selection criteria. Since 2016, the Commission has been working with the European Centre for Electoral Support on a project to prevent, mitigate, and manage election-related conflict and potential violence. We have managed to train over 1,000 individuals in leadership and conflict management in electoral processes. This is a vast and valuable network of people across South Africa who will be able to contribute to the prevention, mitigation, and management of conflict at the grassroots level. Applications for accreditation as observers are currently being processed by the Commission. To date, the Commission has accredited 35 institutions. Distinguished guests and compatriots, the Electoral Commission is on track and will deliver elections on the 8th of May. Now it is over to the political party leaders and candidates contesting this election to take the baton and play their important part in encouraging participation by voters and ensuring we have a successful, peaceful, tolerant, and credible electoral process. In fact, it is paramount that our political leaders have a deep realization that the Electoral Code of Conduct is not a total panacea to the creation of a climate conducive to free and fair elections. Indeed, the Electoral Code of Conduct as a legal instrument has its place within a confluence of factors. Yet the code must be complemented with political rhetoric that fosters cross-sectional behavior which is consistent with the values that underpin the Constitution. In this regard, dear Excellencies, in this regard, dear leaders, we do not fail South Africa. And on behalf of the Electoral Commission, I wish you all well. Ke a leboga.
CEO, thank you very much for your remarks.